If you are in business and you are an empath, you are built for ethical, powerful, aligned sales that feel really good and work. First of all, decades of work in the mind-body field has shown us that each one of us evolve in one of four ways. We call this the somatic skins. So before you watch this video, please go down into the description below and take our free 2-minute Somatic Skins Quiz. Then come back with your main pattern in hand, because in this video, I'm going to be referencing the asset skin, the empath, and some of the others as well. And it won't really make as much sense without knowing your skin first. All right, so back to sales. Most people assume that what we call the warrior skin would be best at sales because they can push, or the sage because they can articulate value, or the shapeshifter because they can adapt and be quite clever socially. But at high development, the asset, the empath, is primed to be one of the most powerful forces, because sales at its highest level is not persuasion, it's attunement. If you are an empath, you might already sense this. The asset's nervous system is organized for contact before cognition. They feel the hesitation behind interactions, the contractions behind objections or concerns, the longing beneath the logic, the bristling before words are accessible. And they don't analyze the room intellectually, they sense it. And that sensing is the foundation of ethical sales. But it's also why, without development, they might struggle the most. Because there is an internal narrative that sabotages what could be the superpower of the asset. Many heart-centered empaths are allergic to enrollment conversations because they feel it as something bad. Well done sales, the way that we advocate, is not coercion, pressure, manipulation dressed up as confidence. It's not bro tactics, and it's not disembodied manifestation language that hides behind, well, let me know if you ever need anything, ever. Sales is structured contact. It is the deliberate creation of a space where desire, fear, money, and truth can all be felt at the same time, and where a real decision can emerge. I actually consider it quite a sacred crucible. It isn't something that you do to someone. It's a container that you hold for them. Perhaps the first ritual of what it is to work with you. If you are an empath, your inner narrative that gets in the way might have been formed around one of the following. It's wrong to charge. It's manipulative to hold somebody to a decision. It's selfish to want money or payment. It's imposing to ask. They know where to find me. But that narrative doesn't live in the mind. Narratives live hardwired in the body. And so when those narratives are at play, for example, it might show up as a caving structure or holding your breath while naming your price. It might be a softened voice, a change in tone or pitch at the moment of an ask, or immediately jumping to modify a detail. It might be a premature, oh, no pressure, just let me know whenever, or an unconscious withdrawal before the decision point. This is not a mindset issue, it's somatic conditioning. And until it's brought to the light and then trained differently, the asset will unconsciously avoid the very tension that creates power and clarity, connection, authenticity. Look, I've been in business a long time, and I've worked with the best in high-end or high-touch sales. I've learned the NLP approaches, the heart-centered approaches, good and bad, the prosperous coach approach, the sales scripts and question-based. I've learned what not to do and what also feels so good and works, and then what I will never do. But if I had to reduce it down to its simplest core, here is what I want you to know. Sales is not something that you do to someone. It's something that you do for them, with them. It's a way for someone to experience you in your essence and your leadership. Enrollment is a part of your service. And this is why I fundamentally do not believe in objection handling. Now, you are holding a structure with them, but you are not trying to talk somebody into or out of anything. Your job is to create the conditions for truth to emerge, to build and hold a container strong enough that someone can feel their fear safely. They can feel their desire. They can feel the cost of staying the same. They can feel the vulnerable reality of investing in more for themselves. And then they can choose. And in that space, you get to share also what is true for you. It is a two-way dynamic. You get to state what you want too, what works best for you. Because you can ask for anything as long as you are available for no. The place where your yes and your no can exist with someone else's yes and no, that is facilitating a space for somatic consent. And this is what makes assets, highly sensitive people, empaths, so well suited for this. Because what they are doing is sensing embodied consent in the field. In a broader sense, sales is just one aspect of a complex or misunderstood or taboo, awkward social dynamic. And the evolved asset is exquisitely sensitive to pack dynamics. They will notice in their body when someone bristles. They will notice when a yes feels off, or when someone gives a polite answer to avoid tension or the truth. When they disconnect from why they came in the first place. Now, if you are at low capacity or low range here as an empath, you'll still sense those dynamics, but instead of holding the tension, you might try to unconsciously soften the moment before it really peaks and sings. You might try to rescue people from their own edge. You might collapse when someone tightens. But tension is not violation or doing harm. Tension is beautiful. Tension is contact and art. And growth requires contact. Now, as I was saying, the low capacity asset is usually sourcing from their shadow, which means that they will avoid the close. They'll avoid calling for a decision or a deadline to preserve harmony. They will absorb the buyer's fear and retreat. They might discount prematurely or over-explain to soothe discomfort or try to justify. They might mistake being liked for being effective. They might collapse when someone else tightens. They'll feel the objection, and generally the asset will merge with it. They'll interpret discomfort as harm or something bad, and they'll rescue people in that way. This is empathy without structure, and it kills clarity, and honestly, it kills the very dynamics of tension and release that are necessary for someone's transformation. Here's the part that is easy to miss. If you are an asset, you have an advantage most other skins as salespeople don't if you train it. For example, when the asset integrates the warrior, the structure of the warrior, and the discernment or clarity of the sage, at high levels, something changes. They can still feel everything, but they don't absorb it as something about them. They can hold tension without rushing to fix it. They can stay warm with people while also speaking the truth without collapse. They can ask directly without aggression or a embodied apology. They can say things like, I noticed something shifted when we talked about the money. And they don't flinch if silence follows. They don't argue, they don't convince, and they don't rescue. They know how to hold the space and let truth surface. Because sometimes in that space, when it's not being argued against or immediately smoothed, someone else's bristle could be a no, but sometimes the bristle is their own fear of expanding in their own life. They could be afraid that they might actually change. And those two differences, the bristle of a true no and the bristle of fear of expansion, those feel different. And the evolved asset can tell. Here's an often unspoken layer to an enrollment conversation. Sometimes people are not just drawn only to your offer. They might be drawn to you, your energy, your expertise, but also your nervous system, your coherence, your ability to tell the truth with steadiness, your range. Something about you activates something about them. And that activation is also a part of the field. So denying that doesn't make it more ethical, it just makes it unconscious. And the evolved or trained asset understands this too. They don't exploit it, but they also don't pretend it isn't real. They trust that resonance is a part of why someone is here with them. I secretly believe that trained empaths who have developed range not only at high capacity as an asset, but in range with all of the skins, I think that they can be one of the best at sales, because great sales is not about controlling the outcome. It is about staying regulated in discomfort while another person confronts their own fear and desire. And the asset is built to sit in those dynamics, to feel longing without shaming it, to hold fear without collapsing, to care deeply without carrying someone, and to remain open without dissolving. And that is rare. And when it's mastered, it just becomes chef's kiss, magnetic. Not because it persuades, but because it is clean in a world where so much of sales and enrollment and influence is dirty. And clean alignment is the highest form of service. If you recognize yourself here and you are an empath who knows you feel everything in the room, but you want to hold more structure and power without becoming an insensitive jerk, this is exactly what we're training in the Prestige and more. We don't train scripts, we train range. We build the warrior spine beneath the asset sensitivity. We sharpen the sage's discernment inside of empathy. We develop the capacity to feel deeply without collapsing. And so if you want to turn your empathy into precision and your presence into ethical influence, join us for a season. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Please do take a moment and like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to go deeper, you can train with us, as I already shared, or you can check out our books. I'll also link them in the description below. Until next time.